This is the Practicing Christian, and this week's report is called Make Them Work for It. There's a tiny lesson that I've been learning from practicing Christians and from others over the years. It has to do with how you might get others, children, for example, or other family members, friends, co-workers, whatnot, to see clearly and appreciate what you yourself have found in the gospel. Much of this may not be a problem for most of you, but it is for me. You see, I'm one of those people who, by nature, is something of a loner. Now, I'm congenial, and I enjoy conversations with other people and all that sort of thing that last well into the night. But I have a job to do, or something to learn, or want to try something new. When that happens, I generally want to do it by myself. I've missed a great deal of good interaction over the years with other people, other men, women, but by watching others, I'm learning a bit how to welcome people into my learning and growth patterns. I have, for example, run across the story of a home-schooled boy reared on a goat farm who won a scholarship and entry into one of the nation's most prestigious universities. How did this happen? His parents had decided, for a number of reasons, many years ago, to head for the country and raise goats. They tried several kinds, were lucky enough to find enough of a market to stay alive with their business. Their son was born. They thought it would be wonderful if he wanted to take over the ranch when they retired. But they were wise enough to know that specialized interests like that, goat ranching, don't easily pass on to another generation. Then they tried something a bit different. They bought him a few pygmy goats when he was still quite young. These are an odorless, very small goats who are nevertheless very good milk producers. The boy discovered that if he didn't take care of them, they would starve. They needed him. His parents were not about to do what so many of us do with family pets. Gradually take over what the child had promised to do. Now these goats would live or die by this boy's hand alone. The boy accepted this responsibility and later found that the goats, because of their size and clean smell, could be sold as pets. He also discovered how to milk them. He learned how to care for and profit from what his parents did with many other goats. He learned how to make cheese. that wonderful goat cheese that has a fine and growing market that is willing to pay good money, by the way, for that kind of cheese. So he was able to develop a business of his own with his own line of cheese, Chèvre, before reaching the age of 15. Eventually, he left all of this for the university and life beyond the goat farm. He took with him priceless experiences that made his adult life stronger and more accomplished than it would have been if he had just had one or two half neglected pets. He had good examples to observe regularly, and he had to work for what he got. I once knew of a church in the East that was trying to see what could be done for its youth group. They thought about giving them an annual grant of money for their program. Instead, the church decided to ask the youth for a gift to the church. They asked them to do fundraising for the amount of money that it would take to pay for the paper for their monthly newsletter. This is before email. It was a lot. The youth were told that if they didn't come up with the money, the newsletter would not be published. Privately, several well-meaning adults told the deacons that if the kids didn't come up with the money, they would cover it. The deacons rejected that plan. If we bail their youth group out because they didn't plan or work well, what message are we sending? It looks to make it's okay to make promises, right? And then not fulfill them, right? That's not good for us to do. They made sure instead that the youth had good relations with several other groups who fundraise, and at least part of their year, or at least part of their year budgets. The kids had several close calls during the year, but they made it. And they learned to plan ahead, not just in time for the month. They learned that the church needed and counted on them. Nothing could have made them feel more a part of that church than feel that they would be needed and counted on. These days, much less is spent on paper. More is spent on missions that youth can undertake. Perhaps constructing housing in another nation, perhaps running a vacation Bible school in their own country. Increasingly, they're raising the funds to make these things happen. In some cases, there are churches that match the funds, but in no cases are the kids given a free ride. They learn how to raise money not by begging it from others. When they show up to work on behalf of a recipient or church or community, the locals quickly learn that these privileged youth worked for the privilege of bringing a ministry to others. That's a lesson that you can't buy. Youth and other people, even children, often get involved in doing minor to extensive rehabilitation of a house owned by people who have grown old or poor or simply overwhelmed by new babies and lost jobs. The work becomes something very special when they help organize it, select the people to be helped, and do some follow-up afterwards to show the people that they care about them. Not just chalking up another project for the scoreboard. The people know that these children and adults work for what they accomplished, and often to get the tools as well with which to do it. The church in Texas has started a unique, as far as I know, program for the young and the not so young adults planning on getting married in coming years. The coming year. They let the entire congregation and church friends know that they'll be starting a Bible study group on sex and marriage. Participation is limited to those who are engaged or may soon be so. These soon-to-be wed people lead their own group, getting to know and support each other. More solid information is exchanged here. For example, my parents were so unequal in their knowledge of, or I never knew that the Lord wanted us to have a joyous sex life together, or I always thought that what I wanted I'd do for my husband would be just getting the basics right. I didn't realize I'd be helping me to be a leader in my community. And we see that in Proverbs 31, 22 to 31. They work either together for what they learn. They work together for what they learn. And that is so much more valuable for becoming a practicing Christian than sitting quietly, listening to someone talk at you. The way you make someone work for something, is to invite them to extend themselves beyond what they've done and show them show the trust in them to do it and not taking it back or bailing them out. I see that again in Acts 6, 1 through 7, or Luke 10, 1 through 7, Mark 1, 2 to 4, Matthew 7, 7 to 12. Practicing Christians are always discovering new training grounds for life in the kingdom. I'm slowly learning more and more to be part of the processes that involve other people. Serve then, be the king's right arm. Oh, by the way, you may want to email this particular practicing Christian some of your youth or youngsters who may wish to subscribe to it.